What's going on, guys? Clint here. Welcome back to the channel Code Commerce, and in this video we're going to be creating this nice calculator in good old plain vanilla JavaScript. I know you guys like seeing React, and I do have some more React videos coming, but I believe that if it is your end goal to become a developer and get hired as a developer, then you really need to hone in on the basics of JavaScript, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. This is a calculator we're going to be building. I have a nice little space background there. Not sure if you can see it, with some keys that we can kind of hover on, and they have a clear effect on them. So as you can see, 7 plus 7, 14 divided by 3 does decimals as well, times 2, and then of course it has the all clear button. Like I said, I'm going to show you how to build this from start to finish. It's going to be about 20 minutes, and feel free to skip around. I'll put some links down below. You can kind of skip around the video and some shortcuts. So here we are in VS Code, and I'm going to go ahead and press the Control and backtick button to open up the terminal. And in order to feel like real programmers, yay, let's go ahead and create our files programmatically. So what we're going to need is an index file, we're going to need a style sheet, and then also a script file for our JavaScript. So what you can type is just touch there, and that's going to allow us to create some new files. So we need an index.html. We're also going to need a style.css, and like I said, script.js. So go ahead and hit enter, and as you can see, it created our files here off to the left. Now let's go ahead and start off. I'm going to press the command B. Will let me toggle this side menu there, and so that's pretty nice there. So let's go ahead and start off writing some HTML. Like I said, feel free, if you got the HTML down, feel free to skip to towards the CSS if that's what you want to brush up on, or even the JavaScript. So here we are in our index, using that emit extension to kind of speed through everything and write a little bit quicker code. I do love that extension. So let's go ahead and give this a title. I'll say my calculator, and I'm going to use this live server. There we go. Should just be a blank page with the title of my calculator. Okay, so we can kind of toggle back and forth what we're building here. So first, what we need to do, let's go ahead and link our style sheet and also our script file. So I'm gonna say a link, and then we can just scroll down to CSS, and we're linking our style.css there. Great. Now we also want to use our script, and we could write some JavaScript inside here in the script tag, but I'm going to go ahead and link an external script file that we created, and we do need to add a property in here by defer. And what that's going to do is basically the script's going to be downloaded in parallel to parsing the page and executed after the page has finished parsing. Otherwise, we'll get some errors. It's not going to work properly. So let's start off by writing some HTML, and let's go ahead and in here. So we're going to have a container, just to kind of explain things real quick. We're going to have a container, and then we're going to be using the grid for all of our keys. And we're going to have our operators up here at the top, and then of course our numbers, our decimal, all clear in an equals button there. And this is just going to be an input that's actually disabled. So it's just going to be a disabled input. So you can, so we're not going to be able to like type in there, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and close that for now. So for our container, let's go ahead and do that first. And like I said, I'm going to be using this shorthand. So if we just hit dot container, what that's going to do is create a class name with, or create a div with a class name of container. You can do the same thing with ID. You would just say it like this, but we don't need any IDs. So for our container here, what we want to do first, let's create our input. So I'm going to say input dot screen, and again, that's going to create an input with the class name of screen, and we need to disable. Display, we need to disable that just like so. And the type of text, yes, that's fine. So next, just below our container, our input of screen, we create a div with the class name of keys. So just using that shorthand property there. So next we need a button, and these are going to be our operator buttons. So I'm going to say button.operator, and that's going to create a button with the class name of operator. And in here, I want to give this a value. And for our first operator here is going to be the plus sign. There we go. And let's just copy this down. I'm on a Mac here, so Shift Option and the down key to kind of create these a little bit more quickly. So I'm all about using shortcuts as a developer, all about being efficient and saving as much time as possible. This will be the asterisk, and then it's going to be the dividing there. And I'm using some HTML code. So this one is, see, I do not have these memorized, by the way, you guys. So all right. Oh, left one out there. There we go. And for for the value on the divider, it is and sign number 247. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a look here. So they can see that's what we're at so far. Everything's looking good. So let's go ahead and create the rest of our buttons. So we'll say button just like that. And I'm going to give this a value of 7. Whoops, 7. This one's going to be 7. And let's copy these down. So 3 here. I'm just going to select all these. You can actually do this as well, which is kind of even a bigger time saver there. So this one's going to be 7. We'll have 8 here. 9. This one's going to be 4. 4. And if this seems like it's a weird order, don't worry about it. You'll see as we give it the class of grid, it'll all make sense and all fall into place. So 1, 2, whoops, 2, and 3. Now we also going to need what we need to do next are our 0. So let's go ahead and do a button with a 0. We'll give this a value of 0. Just added an extra quote there. And then let's do 2 more. We need a button with the class of decimal. So I'm going to use that little trick here. Decimal. There we go. And we need to give this a value as well. And that value is just going to be the dot, the decimal. And we also need a button with the class of all clear, just like that, or whatever you want to call it. But keep that in mind. This is how we're gonna use our JavaScript to grab onto these buttons. We'll say AC. So let's go ahead and save. Don't worry about that prettier extension there. Little alert. That's going to be just fine. So go ahead and save that. Everything is looking good. Looks good right there. So that is it for our HTML, you guys. So let's go ahead and start with our CSS. And we already linked our style sheet there. So let's just kind of press our Control B to toggle this. There we go. Now for our styling, like I said, we're going to tackle this now. And we are using CSS grid for our numbers, which we can kind of do that at the end. So first I'm going to use an asterisk and I'm going to just select everything in here. So let's do that. I'm going to say margin 0. That's just, the asterisk just like a select all, if you will. Then box sizing, I'm just going to say border box. Now we are going to be using this background image. It is an image that I grabbed from Unsplash. So feel free to use your own or whatever you like. I'm just going to grab the HTML element, the body, and background image. Then what we're going to say is URL. Then we're going to put this in parentheses and then again in quotes. And I'm just going to paste it in there. And there you have it. It's our background. We're going to zoom in right now. Whoops. I'm going to zoom in over here. There we go. So as you can see, that's our background looking nice. I'm going to try and keep it zoomed in so it's easier for you guys to see and follow along. So we don't need anything else, any other CSS inside the body. Let's go ahead and create our container or our container CSS. And we're going to say we want to use the, put a border of 1 pixel solid. Then I'm going to use this kind of like grayish off-white color. Then border radius, have a little bit of rounded edges. And then we want to position this, not inherit. We want it absolute. Okay. And then we'll give top 50%. We'll say left 50%. Then transform, and we want to translate negative 50% and negative 50%. And then we'll say width 325 pixels. So that's going to position it directly, horizontally, and vertically in the middle of the screen here. So next, let's target our screen, which is the input that we disabled. So we'll say screen here, and we want the width to be 100%. Border top left radius, we'll say 20 pixels. And I'm just going to copy that down and change this to the right. And again, we're going to keep that 20 pixels on the right as well. So next I'm going to say font size 3 rem. And these are going to be, like I said, the numbers that we're typing in here, or that appear on the screen rather. So height of 80 pixels. And then let's say a border. We don't need a border. And then a background color. Want it to be kind of like a we'll say transparent. Then the numbers can be white. And text align. Of course, it needs to be the right. Otherwise, it wouldn't really make sense. And we'll say padding padding right 20 pixels, and then padding left just going to be 10 pixels, but we really shouldn't get to this side unless that'd be a really, really large number. Okay, so next, let's select the buttons. Let's give this some room. So this is going to be the button element, just the HTML element. We didn't give it a class name or anything. So we'll say height of 60 pixels, border radius 20 pixels. So they're kind of like rounded. The border, we're going to say 1 pixel solid, and then this color is going to be C4, C4, C4. It's kind of like a light gray, and then a background color here, RGBA, and the R is the red, green, blue is the color value, and then the A is just the alpha there. In case you didn't know, we'll just say 000, and then for the alpha, we'll say 0.3. So go ahead and give that a save. Font size, 2 rem, and then color, we'll say F8, 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 which is kind of like a grayish color there. And that's for the text there in itself, kind of off-white, I guess you'd say. Now next we need to have a little hover effect. So we'll say button hover, and we'll say background color, and we'll again use the RGBA. And I'm actually not want this, so we'll say 255, 255, 255, and then 0.4. So you can see we're getting a nice hover effect. Now I do want this all clear to be red, and then the equals to be blue. So let's go ahead and we'll do that right now. And also we're going to have an active class, which we'll do the active class first. And the active class, whenever we click on it, want it to change, you can see it kind of gets a little bit darker or lighter, however you want to think about it. So we'll say button active background color, and again we'll use RGBA, and we're going to say 186, 186, 186, and then 0.4. So as you can see, that changes when we click. Perfect. And so next, let's do our all clear hover background color, and for our background color on the all clear, we'll say 240 RGBA 241, 115, 119. I'm just copying these in, you guys. I obviously don't have these memorized. That would make me probably a freak. So equal sign. There we go. That's what we're selecting next. And we're just going to say height 100%. And then the grid area, we haven't kind of given the keys a grid. We'll just go do that right now. So let's say keys, and we're just going to give the grid, use the grid to align everything. So we'll say display grid. There we go. Grid template columns. And for that, we're going to say repeat for 1 fraction. So that should line it up. There we go. Now we're going to say grid gap of 10 pixels. There we go. And padding of 10 pixels. Let's go ahead and save that. Everything's looking good so far. Now, I noticed we're kind of missing a few things. So let's go ahead and do that right now with our equal sign. We need to add in, we'll say grid area 2, 4, 6, 5. Go ahead and save that. Okay, and we'll do 2, 4, 6, 5 for our grid area. And then let's say, actually, let's see here. Where is our equal sign? Did I leave off? I left off the equal sign. Sorry about that, you guys. No wonder it's looking funny. So button dot class, sorry, not class, equal sign. We're going to go back and create our button. Also, our equal sign is actually going to have 2 class names. And so the way we can kind of shorthand that, like I said, we did, button dot equal sign for our class name. You can just do another button, and we'll say operator. And so it creates the button with dual class names there. So, and then we just got to give it one of those. And of course, we do need a value so we can connect to it with JavaScript. And that's just going to be the equal sign. So sorry, guys, I left that out. But hey, there it is. Everything's looking good. Now, I do want this to be kind of a blue when we hover over it. So let's go ahead and give that the blue color there. So let's see here. For our blue, what we're going to have is, okay, finding that color. For the equal sign, we'll say equal sign hover. And we'll say RGBA. Uh-oh. background color RGBA, and we'll say 78, 159 to 12 and 0.4. So let's go ahead and give that a save. There we go. Now also just a little quick, if you want to change the color codes, you can kind of click on that. Sometimes you can kind of change the color codes. Hey, up there it was. Okay, you can click on this, kind of change through hex code, the HSLA, HWB, or I only use the hex code and the RGBA, to be honest. I'm not even sure what the other ones stand for. So yeah. Okay, so you guys smash the like button if you feel like you're getting some value out of this. We are actually done with the HTML and we are done with the CSS. So what we have now is the JavaScript portion of this. So let's go ahead and Command B, toggle our side menu, and let's open up our JavaScript file. So first I'm going to use some notes here. So always like using notes. It kind of keeps good habit to get into, especially when you're working larger with a team. Kind of not only keep yourself accountable and kind of like know what's going on. Because if you looked at this 6 months from now, you probably have no idea without looking at the notes what was going on. And also if you work with a team, also good so other people can understand your code as well. So we're going to create an object here by the name of a calculator, not calculate, let's say calculator. There we go. And we want the display value by default to be 0. And we're going to want the first operand by default to be null. And we're going to have waiting for second operand going to be false. And then operator null, just like that. Go ahead and give that a quick save. And those are going to be our default object values. Now let's create an update display function here. And we're going to be using the new arrow functions. So update display, there we go. And we don't need to pass anything here. Will not be any arguments. We'll say const display equal document dot query selector. There's all types of, you can use query selector, get element by ID, get element by class name. We didn't give anything class names, so, but we use we didn't give anything IDs, so we're going to be using the query selectors to select the class names. So we're selecting screen, and just to show you guys, if you're kind of confused about that, we're selecting this class right here. So document.query selector, and then we can just grab this class. And that's what we're doing right here. So we're grabbing onto that and just storing it in a variable by the name of display. And then we can say display.value. So we're saying essentially this input, that screen dot value is going to be equal to calculator.display value. And I hope this makes sense. Like I said, we're grabbing this element right here. We gave it the class name of screen, which is an input. And we're essentially going to say that the value is going to be equal to that screen here. So next we want to run this update display function, and that's just going to clear out. So there you go. It already has our 0 in here. So none of the buttons are hooked up. So we can't do anything yet, but let's move on. And the next thing we want to set up. So this is kind of update. Let me say update display. So next what we do is kind of handle a key press. So whenever we press these buttons, we already gave them values in our HTML file. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I give some room here, and what we're going to say, give it a note, we'll say handle our key press. So const will say keys equal to document dot, again we're going to do the query selector, and remember we gave the a class of keys, so we can just select the keys there. Now we'll say keys.add an event listener, and what we're going to listen for is a click. So what we can do in JavaScript, you can do click, you can do key press, all sorts of things. And what we're going to do is an arrow function. We're going to pass in, or we're going to call an event. You can actually name this whatever you want. I'm going to say event, and what we'll say is the const target equal to event. I'm going to give that a save. Now, if we're using if no target that matches a button, then we just want to return. Okay, so go ahead and give that a save. Now we need to have a way to use our operators and then also our decimal and our all clear. So let's do the operator next. So we'll say if target.class list, because how do we know what we're clicking? Contains operator. And again, we're in our, sorry if you understand this thoroughly, then I just want to explain this well for beginners. We're checking for this class list of operator. So if it contains an operator, then we'll say handle operator target.value. And then we want to update the display. And we need to return this to kind of break the cycle. Now, next what we want to do is look for the decimal. So we'll say if target.class list.contains the decimal, then input decimal target.value. And we're going to go down and then create these. I'm kind of doing it a little bit somewhat out of order, but just kind of, I think it's easier to follow along. And then after we're finished, we can kind of go through step by step how we do things. So next we want to use the all clear. So we'll say if target.class list.contains all clear. And again, just to be thorough, this is what we're looking for. This class list, all clear. The decimal, there we go. So we'll say whenever we use the all set or the all clear, we want to reset the calculator, and we're going to create this function. We're just going to be calling them, even though we haven't created them yet. We will be creating them here in a moment. So return, and then of course, let's see here, the input. We always want to finish it with the input digit target.value and update the display. So let's go ahead and give that a save. And now let's use the create an input digit function. We'll say input digit, and we'll say const input digit. There we go. Oh, need to do our arrow function here, and we'll just pass in argument by the name of digit. We'll do a little bit of destructuring here. So we'll say const display. You don't have to do this. It just kind of makes it, waiting for second operand is kind of a longer variable. So this just makes it a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner, and just easier to read. So let's say if waiting for second operand is strictly equals to true, and then calculator dot display value equal to digit, then calculator dot waiting for second operand is equal to false. Else calculator dot display value equal to, and we're going to be using a ternary operator here. We'll say 0 if true, digit, else display value plus digit. Now let's go ahead and save that. I know it's kind of weird since it wraps lines. We could zoom out for a minute. There we go. So if it's what we're saying, if this evaluation is true, then we're going to return digit, else return display value plus digit. All right, so kind of going to zoom back in here. I want to be able to zoom in so you guys can see. I know it's kind of hard if you're following along on YouTube when the screen is zoomed out. It's kind of hard to follow along. So and try and keep that in mind. So next, we have to hook up our decimal here. So let's do that right now. We'll say input decimal. There we go. So we'll say const. I'm gonna give us some room here. Whoops. So say const input decimal equal to, we're just going to pass an argument by the name of dot, and we'll say if calculator dot waiting for second operand is strictly equal to true, then we'll say calculator dot display value, and this is kind of funky. So this is the value, but we want to say 0 dot, okay, or 0 decimal, okay, and then we'll say calculator dot waiting for second operand is equal to false, and we want to return that. So let's go ahead and give that a save. Gets nice and formatted for us. And then lastly, we'll say if we'll use the not operator, if this is not true, If it does not include the dot, essentially is what we're saying. If it does not include the dot, then we'll say calculator dot display value plus equals dot. So let's go ahead and give that a save. And nothing's going to work yet because we actually hooked up. We can type in here and that works, but we can't run any calculations. So that's okay though. We're going to get to that here in just a moment. And let's do the handle. We're going to handle our operators right now. So let's go ahead and do that next. So give some room here. Let's say handle operators. We'll say const handle operator equal to, and the next operator is what we're going to pass in there. It's just an argument here, and we'll say const, do a little destructuring. First operand, just to make it a little cleaner, display value and operator equal to calculator. If you're not super familiar with object destructuring, basically we're kind of just pulling these values out of calculator. That way we don't have to say calculator dot display value and calculator dot waiting for second operand and all that stuff. Just kind of shortens. By adding this one line, it makes the rest of what we're going to write a lot more readable. So also we need const input value equal to, we'll say parse float display value. Let's say if operator and calculator dot waiting for second operand. If both those are true, we'll say calculator dot operator equal to next operator, and we need to return that. Now let's see, next what we want to say, if first operand equal to null and is not a number, input value, we'll say calculator dot first operand equal to input value. Okay, else, give some room here, else if, and what we're going to look for is operator, checking to see if that is true. So const result, we'll just give this a variable. We want to calculate. What we're going to calculate is the first operand. We're going to need the input value and also operator. We'll say calculator dot display value is going to be equal to, we're using some backticks in here, and what we're going to say is, we're going to allow us to use our variable here. We'll say parse float result, and then we don't, sometimes when you make a calculation, I'm sure you're aware of this, you'll have like an endless amount of zeros or other numbers, and what we need to do is, or we don't need to, but let's have a to fixed. And you can set this to whatever you'd like. Well, I'll say 7. That way it's like, you know, not 1.2 and then like 22s on the end. So that'll just kind of make your calculator work funky. So we'll say to fixed of absolutely, the max amount is 7 there. And let's say calculator dot first operand equal to result. Let's go ahead and save that. And then we'll say calculator dot waiting for second operand equal to true, and sorry about that, you guys. Sometimes you like the shortcut, sometimes I hit them on accident. So calculator dot operator equal to next operator. So let's go ahead and save that. Everything is looking good. Now this is kind of the fun part. We actually need to, let's do our logic to actually make the calculations work. So what happens when we click 7 plus 7? Like where's the math gonna be? And that's what we're gonna be doing right now. And then we'll do the reset, this calculator, the reset button afterwards. So let's do our, like, I guess our logic, you would say, our calculator logic, we could say. So we'll say const calculate, or whatever you want to call it. And again, this is going to be an arrow function. We're going to take in a few arguments here. So we need the first operand, we need the second operand, and then of course we're going to need the operator to know what we're going to be doing with this. Are we adding it? Are we subtracting it? Multiplying? Dividing? Okay, so if operator. And this is really pretty easy. So we're checking to see if it's going to be plus, minus, multiplied, or divided. So if the operator is equal to, puts in a string here, to plus, then we're going to do return the first operand. And guys, just if you're a little confused about operand, the operand is just referring to the first and the second number of the calculation. So if I wanted to do 2 plus 5, for example, the 2 would be the first operand, then the plus is going to be the operator, and then the 5 would be the second operand. Now, of course, it doesn't work right now, but I was just trying to explain that in case you're a little bit confused. And so operator, if we're using the plus, then we'll say first operand plus the second. It's always going to be the first and the second operand. So, and let's go ahead and save that. So that's the plus. Else, let's do operate. We'll do minus next. So we'll say operator equal to, I'm going to put this in quotes, minus. Then what are we going to do? We're going to return, you probably guessed it, the first operand minus the second operand. There we go. Now next, let's do else if. Next we can do multiplication. So if operator equals to, what's our multiplier? The little asterisk there. We're going to return first operand times second operand. There we go. And then of course we need the last one, else if operator is equal to, and this is strictly equals, they all are, to the divider, then we'll say return first operand divided by second operand, okay? And then just down here, we can return the second operand. So let's go ahead and click save, and let's see how it works. We'll say 1 plus 2, see if it works. Hey, there we go. Let's time this by 9, 27. Let's see if our decimals are working. Divide that by 2, awesome. Let's see if we can add 0.5 to get 14. Perfect. So there's our calculators working properly, but we still need a way to clear it out and to reset. So let's hook up our all clear button. So if we go back into our HTML, you will see that this button right here, the all clear, we have a class of all clear and a value of all clear. And inside our script, you can see our all clear. We don't see it. Let's create that right now. The reset calculator, we'll do that right now. So const reset calculator. It's going to be an arrow function. And let's make a little quick note here. We'll say reset calculator. There we go. Now, for our arrow function, we're going to say calculator, or inside of our function, dot display value. And essentially what we're going to do, we could just, let's just copy this up here, would really be the easiest way. So we can just paste that, and not the whole function, just everything inside. And what we can say, I'm going to hold down the option key, and by holding down the option key again is going to allow me to select multiple lines in VS Code. And what I want to say is calculator dot. So we'll say calculator dot, just like that. Okay. So dot the display value. By resetting it, we just want to essentially reset all these back to their original state. So calculator.display value back to 0. The first operand we want to set back to null. And these actually need to be equal, since we're not actually, this is a function and we're not actually creating this object here. So the waiting for second is going to be false, and the operator is going to be back equal to null. So let's see, give this a quick save, and let's see if this is working properly. So we'll say 7. Something's not working here. See here, calculator. Let's open up our, I may have made an error. Oh, that's what it is. So this is a function. We don't need, since I copied it down, object is using the commas here, and we actually need to end each line. So that was the error there. Okay, so now and by the way, you guys, you're going to run into these errors all the time. Clearly, I knew not to do that, but it doesn't really matter. Even if you do this stuff every single day and you get paid to write it every single day, you're still going to run into silly little syntax errors like that. So don't think that, a lot of these videos are highly edited, so don't think that all these people on YouTube are just doing it perfectly every single time. So just get that out of your mind, and you'll feel a lot better about yourself here. Oh, we didn't make that disabled. So there's one right there, another example. So let's go back into the HTML file real quick, and for our input here, we want to just make sure. Yeah, look at that. I just left off the D. Sorry. So there you go. And again, another prime example of little things being left off. So nonetheless, that was the end of our JavaScript. So it should be working properly now. Let's go ahead and clear that off. There you go. So let's just test out everything. We'll say 0.2 plus 5. 5.2 will minus 4. Awesome, times 5. Look at that, you guys. Let's divide that by 5. Everything is working properly. Go ahead and all clear. So there you have it, you guys. We just built a calculator and good old plain vanilla JavaScript without using any heavyweight frameworks such as React or Angular. So smash the like button, you guys. I hope you got some value out of this. Leave me a comment down below if you want to connect with me. Also, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I love interacting with you guys. I try and help out a lot of you guys ask me questions in the comments about debugging some of the code, and I try and get to all of them, but there's just so many of them. But if I skip over you, I apologize, but just ask it again. I likely just didn't see it. So thanks for watching, you guys. Smash the like button, and I will see you on the next one.